Hi, it's Tuesday. Um, I'm not sure what day it is. Um, it kind of feels like I've been doing this forever. I had work today. It was in person. I like when work is in person. I like uh, being around people, seeing them and talking to them, and I like when people just come up and talk to me, like just about whatever, you know. Doesn't have to be about work. I've been told before that like I can be kind of intimidating and kind of scary and not seem super approachable. Uh, I don't know what it is about me that supposedly gives off that vibe, but something I'd like to overcome because I like when people come up and talk to me. Yeah, and some people came up and talked to me today, so that was great. Loved it. Then after work, I went to the gym, and then after the gym, I took a shower there at the gym, and I went straight to improv class. And I really love my improv class. I'm in level 3 now, which is supposedly where they really start taking it seriously. And I just had a lot of fun, you know. And again, I like being around people and I like interacting with them. And so improv is really just about that. One of the things that the teacher, her name is Amy, what she said today was that one of the things that you really learn in improv is just how to have a normal conversation. Because that's kind of what it's all about, is how do you have a normal conversation even when things are bizarre, I guess. When, when the person you're talking to is kind of a weirdo, or when it turns out you're both weirdos, or something weird is going on, kind of the things that everybody is worried about in normal conversations. That's what improv is all about. It's about how to handle those situations. And I enjoy it, and the people that I'm in the class with are all very fun and they're very funny and they're incredibly supportive, and it's amazing. And I've said before that I have never experienced any kind of unconditional support that's anything like improv, because everybody is so very there for each other. You always know every time you step out, you know that everybody's going to have your back, and every time anybody else steps out, you know that you are there for them. It is amazing. But yeah, I'm not here to sell you on improv. And then after class, no, let me talk about in class. In class, I told a story. We were just kind of doing a set, and it's called a living room set. So you get a word, and then you tell stories for a bit, and then you act out skits, see little scenes, based on those stories. And our word was television. So I started with a story about, and this does tie back into Gabi actually. I started with a story about how I used to live in this apartment back in Amarillo, and I had no TV and I had no internet or anything. And so, and I was also unemployed at the time. So I would walk down a couple of blocks to go to Planet Fitness at like 2 in the morning, and I would go run at Planet Fitness so that I could watch the TVs. And there's more to the story, but that's the gist of it. And then we acted out a bunch of stuff based on that, and it was very fun. And my story, I think, it got a lot of interest, which I liked. Kind of like being the center of attention. Um, but how this ties into Gabi is actually, it turns out, Gabi lived in those same apartments at the same time as me. We didn't know each other, but we lived like we were neighbors about 4 years before we ever met. It's crazy. Speaking of Gabi and apartments, let's go back to walking you through me and Gabi's story. So where we left off, we were living at these apartments. I forget what they were called, but they were at 45th and they were on 45th, close to Western Street in Amarillo. And I had told you guys about the renovations and going to that townhouse and making breakfast burritos and watching Naked and Afraid and just enjoying just kind of being. During that time, I worked as a substitute teacher, mostly at Tascosa High School. And Gabi, what did she do? What was she doing? Not sure. She worked for an after-school program at an elementary school, and then we both started graduate school there while we lived there. Both of us getting graduate degrees, master's degrees in math, and Gabi started working um, at the university as a teaching assistant, and I was working as a substitute teacher. I really loved substitute teaching, but then after the first semester, I also started working at the university, and we both really loved working at that university. And this was just a really great time. We cooked chili a lot because we had very little money, and we worked at the university together. And we took separate cars because we're very different people. So like I love teaching, but I hate planning lessons. So I would basically plan out things out very vaguely, show up and just wing it. Whereas Gabi is really a planner, and so she'd go to work at like 8 in the morning and work till like 4. I thought it was crazy because I'd show up at like 11:30 and have class at like 11:45 or something. And we lived in that apartment for a year. And there were times Gabi hated our mattress, so there were times when she would go and sleep on the couch. And whenever she would go and sleep on the couch, I would go and sleep on the floor in front of the couch so that I could be next to her. We also had our first fight. It was like August maybe. We'd lived together for like 10 months before we even argued that I remember. And I don't remember what it was about, but I remember I was upset and I had left and I went to the park and no, I went to the gas station and I bought something like a hard lemonade, I forget. And I bought a pack of cigarettes and I went to the park and I drank whatever that thing that I bought was, and I smoked some cigarettes, and I got really, really drunk off of that one thing, and I called my mom to come get me and take me back to the apartment, and my mom dropped me off and I went inside and Gabi was there, and I was drunk and I smelled like cigarettes, and she thought it was so gross that I smelled like cigarettes, and that was the last time I ever smoked. And that was our first fight, and that's what happened. I walked off and she stayed in the apartment. Yeah. We were good like more than 90% of the time, I think, but when we did argue, we were very bad at it. We almost never argued constructively. Even after, over the course of 8 years of it, it's like we'd argue not very often, but when we did, it was intense. And it definitely got to be more and more recently as my stress and mounted, and my self-worth vanished. It got to be more and more often, and it was more often, and it was worse. And I didn't really feel it that much while it was happening, but looking back at it now, I can see, how it all happened. I'll talk to you tomorrow.